Alright guys, why has the Segway failed? Guys, why would the Segway even be a thing when we got scooters and stuff, which is basically the same thing as a Segway? But I'm sure there's like some companies out there selling Segways. Again, it's just like something that, I would get if I was just a super rich. I personally doubt I'll ever get rich, but hey. Why doubt myself completely? There's a chance, right, guys? There's a chance. I haven't been trying the most. I haven't been trying the most the past few days, so alright, let's check it out. Why the Segway failed, guys? Company man. If you don't know by now, that's the guy who made this video.
Segway today is not necessarily one of the most respected pieces of technology. In fact, you probably do not even think about it at all. Maybe you'll use one to take a guided tour of a city or see a police officer.
I just think they're too silly and expensive, guys. Again, whenever we're putting like electric hardware into stuff, there's like a premium you gotta pay if you want a touchscreen on your freaking ice chest. There's a premium you gotta pay.
Or security guard rolling around on one, but that's about the extent of it, right? It's
That guy probably owns the company, Segway Pittsburgh.
become more of a novelty, which is why you might be
And you ain't getting no workout on that thing, bro. Like a car. It's just like less safe.
surprised to learn that the Segway was easily one of the most anticipated product launches of all time. In the early 2000s,
Honestly, I was way too young though. Like they said, early 2000s. I was learning how to play Pokemon, guys. I had like not a big an accurate grasp on how the world is, guys. Not a good accurate grasp at all. I'm sure nobody at that age has a good accurate grasp.
everybody was talking about it like it was going to change the world of transportation as we know it. Sure, some of the hype was coming from internet speculation on blog posts and whatnot, but a lot of it was coming from well-known, respected professionals, like the inventor of the Segway himself, Dean Kamen. If you're not familiar,
Oh, who is this guy? I'm sorry, guys. I'm just making a few videos public because every video of mine does get like almost every video gets a yellow dollar sign. So submitting them in for a review.
I would describe him as an eccentric genius millionaire type. He's known for wearing denim, traveling by helicopter. He
Denim, guys, isn't denim? I was just thinking about this earlier today. Isn't denim just like standard clothing? I don't think it's. Is it really that extravagant if you're wearing denim, guys?
owns an island. Well, while he was still in college in the 1970s, he invented a small infusion pump that allowed drugs to be administered to patients in steady, reliable doses. He built a company around that invention called AutoSyringe.
Dang, bro, this guy's quite the inventor then, man. Him talking about it makes me think it's like innovative, bro. Is it not innovative or something?
That he sold in his early 30s for millions of dollars. He then took that money and used it to start a research and development company that would go on to invent more impactful medical devices. Some of those would include a portable dialysis machine that was much smaller than the
Dang, bro, he's making some freaking good and bad. Like, guys, this guy's changing the world for the better, bro.
existing ones, and a flexible heart stent. I'm talking about stuff that has improved the quality of life or even extended the life of many individuals. In 1990, he saw somebody in a wheelchair struggling to get it up over the curb on the side of the road, and it gave him an idea to create this advanced robotic wheelchair called iBot. It had
The stock footage was totally ingenuine, by the way, that he was using for this video, guys. That lady in the wheelchair did not look like she was like actually confined to a wheelchair, and that's good.
6 wheels, a motor, it can go up curbs and stairs, it could even stand up, so a person in the wheelchair
Okay, now that's pretty cool.
could match the same height as someone else. While designing this, the team realized that they could take some of the gyroscope balance
He's playing basketball in a wheelchair, guys. I never thought I'd see something like that happen. Okay, okay. Good marketing.
And other technologies that developed for that share and used them to create a new vehicle that would ultimately become the Segway. And I have to say that Dean Kamen saw a lot of potential for this, investing so much of his time and money.
Segway, like there's a different use of the term Segway. You know what I mean? That's what came to mind when I heard him say Segway.
Into it. He even made public statements saying, "I believe the Segway HT human transporter will do for walking what the calculator did for the pad and pencil, or that it will be to the car what the car was to the horse and buggy."
Honestly, not gonna lie, I actually thought it was a cool idea. I actually wanted one, guys. I never asked my parents for it, but I thought it was cool.
He essentially thought that he was going to sell millions of them and that it would be the new standard for getting around cities.
It might not be that easy the second time around, you know what I mean?
All across the world. It really is sad to think that the Segway has fallen so short of his expectations. It has now existed for over 2 decades, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess that most of the people watching this have never been on one. And I'm almost positive in saying that most of you have not bought one, considering they have only
My gosh.
sold an estimated 140,000 units in total, and as of 2020, they are not even being produced anymore. I would go ahead and call this one of the biggest product failures of all time. So in this video, I want to explore exactly why it failed so badly. I have put together a list of what I believe to
I will say one of my reasons, guys. I think it's just too darn outright expensive, guys. And scooters just win. They just win hands down.
be the 5 biggest reasons, starting with those initial expectations. As I've already said, Dean Kamen was a respected, proven inventor that was speaking so highly of the Segway, and that was only a small part of it. There were other respected businessmen in the technology field that were also hyping it up, including Jeff Bezos, at the time calling it one of the most famous and anticipated products.
Bezos ended up supporting a company that helps a lot more better, or a lot, it provides convenience in a lot easier way than the Segway.
Product introductions of all time. Another one would be Steve Jobs, predicting that it would become as big as the PC. Could you even imagine what the world would look like today if he was right about?
Yikes, bro. Nah, not as good as a PC. Not nowhere near as good as a PC, guys. He's way behind.
That if the Segway was as prevalent as the personal computer? John Doerr, a famous technology investor known for seeing early potential in Amazon, Google, and many others, was not only an early investor in Segway, but predicted that it would achieve $1 billion in sales faster than any other product in history. There was even an episode of South Park from 2001 partially inspired not by the Segway itself, but by the hype surrounding the announcement of the Segway. The public was
Hey, it happens a lot, man. It happens a lot. Anytime there's a new iPhone coming out, just look at TikTok for like a few seconds. You know what I mean? Look at YouTube.
was hearing a lot of these statements even before they knew exactly what it was, just little tidbits here and there, because the project was so secretive. People were out there speculating that it could be a teleportation device or some other wild science fiction, fantasy, whatever. So by the time it was finally announced on Good Morning America in December of 2001, there was no way that it could live up to expectations. I mean, sure, it was a cool invention made possible by the years-long development of advanced technology, but it didn't seem all that impressive because it could not meet those unrealistic
Makes sense as well, guys.
expectations that people had in their heads. My next reason behind the failure of the Segway is the marketing that was behind it. See, the strength of Dean Kamen is inventing, and that goes for the rest of his team as well. For well over a decade before the Segway, his company had been researching and developing all these medical devices, and then relying on a different company to actually produce and sell them. For example, that iBot wheelchair was invented by Kamen's company, but sold by Johnson & Johnson. But for the Segway, unlike any of those other inventions, he created a separate company for it that would also handle the manufacturing and sales. I think.
But yeah, when you're manufacturing like these giant things that the car corporations probably won't always want around. And then, now that it has a motor, you know what I mean? Now they're going against the car corporations, even if it's a very weak motor.
further showing how much he believed in the product, but he didn't even hire an outside sales team, and I strongly have to question if that was the best decision. Look, I don't want to keep bringing it back to Steve Jobs, I know he can be polarizing, but he was one of the few people invited to see the Segway before it was revealed, and I hope you'll agree, he is...
Man, R.I.P. Steve Jobs, though, man. He brought so much good stuff, over, man. Like, into the real life, bro. R.I.P. Steve Jobs.
somebody who knows a lot about marketing technology products. His advice to them was to launch it with one model to keep things simple and straightforward for the customer. That was actually a big part of his transformation plan over at Apple in the 1990s, but Segway instead chose to launch it with two available models. Jobs remarked how the appearance of the Segway was very traditional and
Hey, Apple, they release like 4 phones when they release their yearly phone, so hey, maybe this guy had the right idea. Right idea.
not reflective of the innovative technology inside of it, but they decided to keep the traditional design through the reveal and really never changed it all that much over the years. Jobs also advised them to have a giant launch to make a big deal out of it, but Segway instead chose to do it very slow and methodically. Following that reveal on Good Morning America, it was only available to large companies. Early on, police departments and the post office and Disneyland were all allowed to test them out in hopes that they would place giant orders of multiple Segways, which clearly did not happen to the degree that they wanted it to. Meanwhile, an average public consumer was not able to buy a Segway until almost a full year after that announcement, and at that point, a lot of the hype around it had cooled off. Another reason behind the failure is that in, I would say most situations, the Segway is simply impractical. It's not even legal in many places to ride it on the sidewalk. That has been a huge hurdle that they've had trouble getting.
Yeah, for real? I stopped riding my scooter because I couldn't collect. I just stopped collecting cans, man. I used to always ride my scooter.
Over. Segway was spending a lot of money lobbying to get these laws changed in various states and cities, but they've been met with resistance from certain groups claiming that it's a safety concern. Aside from struggling to find a place to ride it, the machine itself was impractical. It was heavy, it could only travel about 12 miles before having to be charged again. It took
Yikes. Yeah, definitely behind his time, bro. If somebody could, make a way better one, but somebody has already made one. This guy's just trying to slap a brand on it and mass produce them. But there's so many, like, custom bikes and stuff. You can get it, like, custom done. Probably you can find somebody in your city that could do it, bro.
both hands to ride it, meaning it was hard to do anything else at the same time. You don't have any of those issues just riding a simple bicycle around. And you know what else? A bicycle typically doesn't cost $5,000. Yeah, a Segway was pricey, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. Their former VP of marketing admitted the price was way out of whack, and their former CEO said a lot of people said our products were too expensive, they were too overpriced. Yeah, they were. You know why? I needed the money to run the company. It turns out that the battery that was required, the way it was engineered, and the fact that they manufactured it in New Hampshire instead of somewhere cheaper overseas made it so expensive to make that it
What? Okay, that's the number one reason then. Not manufacturing it in China, where everybody else does.
was difficult to turn a profit if they sold it for any cheaper. Also, consider that before the launch, Segway had a $650 million valuation, but Dean Kamen was only willing to sell about 15% control of the company when raising capital, so there was always a financial struggle happening behind the scenes. Yet another reason Segway never really took off is because of all of these accidents. Like many forms of transportation, riding a Segway takes a little practice before you can
Yeah, man, just make them more safe, bro.
master it. You have to lean in different directions depending on where you want to
Yeah,
go.
bro.
It's a foreign technology, so people can find it to be tricky. But there have
Dang,
been so
you saw
many
him get up like that. Whoa.
high-profile documented accidents involving Segways that they quickly started to develop a negative, even dangerous reputation. In 2003, only 7 months after its release to the public, by the way, the President of the United States, George W. Bush, was riding a Segway in Maine and famously fell off of it. In 2010, Ellen DeGeneres fell off of one while demonstrating how to ride it on the stage of her talk show. In 2015, a cameraman was riding one and ran into Usain Bolt during a victory lap, not to mention 2 separate recalls where malfunctions in the system were causing people to fall off of it.
Recalling all the scooters. Oh my goodness. You kind of got to get like the Department of Motor Vehicles to like oversee it and make sure it's a decent product.
But the most disastrous accident, in my opinion, happened in 2010. See, by 2009, Dean Kamen was looking to sell the company. I think it was clear that Segways weren't going to become the next big thing, and he wanted to put his attention elsewhere. They had recently worked with General Motors to develop some unique-looking concept cars, so it was looking like maybe they would buy the Segway company, but then GM filed for bankruptcy, so none of that happened. Ultimately, it was bought by a British millionaire named James Heselden. 20 years earlier, he had started a company that makes barriers primarily used to protect military bases. It was speculated that maybe he wanted to use his connections to adapt the Segway technology for military uses. Well, here's
That'd be cool. Good idea though.
where it gets crazy. Since Segways were illegal to ride on the sidewalks in the UK, Heselden would ride his around his own property. One day he lost control of it and rode it right off a cliff and died. Yeah, it sounds like it would be a joke, but unfortunately that was a real-life tragic event.
As when he was talking about it and kind of like hinting at it, I didn't think it was actually gonna happen, but it did. Wow.
When the owner of Segway dies,
Yeah, you gotta be careful, man. Like, first of all, why they not have like a guardrail on the cliff, bro? Because accidents can happen, bro. Like, come on now.
while riding
Oh, now the Segway dream is over with because of unfortunate mistake.
Segway, that'll make you stop and think that maybe a Segway isn't the safest way to get around. My final reason behind the failure is that Segways pretty much just became a joke. What's the first thing that comes to your mind whenever you think of a Segway? It's probably not the best image. For me, my mind instantly goes to Paul Blart Mall Cop, probably not the image that Dean Kamen was hoping for when he and his team spent a decade developing the technology for it. He always insisted that people don't call it a scooter, but then...
It's an idiot on a scooter at night? It's gotta be Job.
Yeah, Job on the show Arrested Development would ride a Segway around, feeding into that privileged, lazy stereotype that was formed around Segway users. Weird Al was riding one in the video for his song White and Nerdy. Just so many negative depictions throughout popular media that help demonstrate how Segways quickly transitioned
Honestly, still looks like a cool device.
from a groundbreaking means of
And I would get one.
transportation to the simple butt of
But not Razor scooters. Everybody's using those guys. Or a variation of them.
a joke. To finish things up, Segway was sold in 2013, then again in 2015 to a competing Chinese company called Ninebot, who seemingly just wanted it for the hundreds of patents they held so they can enter the US market. In 2020, they announced that they would
Yeah, bro, smart.
end production of the iconic Segway device in favor of making other products that they feel are more cost efficient and less outdated. So I guess that's
Bought
the
out all the patents, man. Nikkei.
end of it. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of the
Like, there's no, like, safety for your feet or anything, bro. Anything with vehicles are, like, very dangerous in general, but... kind of unfortunate ending, man, for sure.
Segway? Was it an amazing invention that was completely mishandled, or was it truthfully doomed from the beginning? In other words, in your opinion, is there a different version of this story that would have resulted in major cities across the globe being filled with Segway users? I'm also curious if you
Probably not.
have ever ridden one at some point.
I have not. I have not.
Likely during a Segway tour would be my goal. Please, let me know if you are one of the few people who has ever owned one of these. What made you buy it? What was your experience? Do you still ride it? And any other thoughts you have about Segway, the device, or the company, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Alright, guys, that's our video. Thank you for watching. Company man. Stair climbing on a bouncing wheelchair orders or a magnitude more impressive. I know, right? Wheelchairs. Alright, guys, thank you for watching. Peace out, everyone. You guys are the best, okay? On to 7,000, guys. I'm sorry I had a 4-day break, but we're back. We're back and ready for action, guys. I will take a few days off this month, but not anytime soon. We'll probably go a week or so, a week or two, with just straight videos. So glad to be back, guys. Sorry about that 4-day break.